Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 6th episode, Chapter 6 of The Power of 8. I am your co-host, Jennifer Smith, along with Pollyanna Blanco. Hello, Pollyanna. You are joining us today from Mexico, right?
Yes. I'm staying down here for a little while and loving being in nature and just having a change of scene. Whenever I find this place, actually, the spirit place has a very powerful energy, especially sacred feminine energy here. So it's a blessing to be here and joining into the conversation with everyone today from this place together.
Yes, very nice. I love the ocean. The ocean always brings a sense of peace to me. So that's great. And I'm glad that you're joining us. So Chapter 6 was called the Peace Intention Experiment. And again, we are reviewing the Power of 8 book. Each week, we'll go through a chapter. And this chapter was really about how Lynne described how she was going to go through the data collection because she's trying to prove out why energy healing works. And so much of this chapter, and I appreciate all the stuff that she had laid out there on all of the people she contacted in order to get the correct data stream going on to prove the results of her the healing intentions worked. So what did you think about that? What did you think about all the hoops she went through to try to get this done?
She's definitely very dedicated and
Mhm.
tenacious. Because even I think at one point she talked about how it was 19 days. She gathered 6,000 people from around the world, and there was momentum building with people hearing about. It was kind of going viral on the internet. This peace project, World Peace Project, and how she was still, holding out for some of the data that they needed that she wanted to have prior to the experiment, the meditation experiment, so that they could compare, the sort of the concrete impact of the meditation gathering on the data. And so I give her credit because she got really creative, and I feel like that's exciting, right? Because I feel like when this is sort of the carrot that's dangling before all of us as a humanity. It almost, because I'm going to say it's almost counterintuitive at this point as a collective in one sense, because so many of us have become conditioned to being in survival brain. And there's a much larger growing awareness that is actually the precipice that a lot of people have been straddling, whether it's coming up through physical ailments and they're seeking healing outside of or functional medicine or integrative medicine, and looking to have more input from different sources, a more holistic approach to noticing what they're going through. Oftentimes it starts with the physical body first and then moves into the emotional response to that and the thoughts about that and so on. And so what I love about this is that, the fact that she's been doing these peace experiments and sharing them in her book is that invitation for all of us, because she's taking it from such a scientific approach, to begin to recognize that the survival brain that a lot of us have been conditioned to be in, oftentimes when we're faced with, some of the crises in the world, we're thinking to ourselves, oh my gosh, I need to do more, I need to do more, I need to do more. And the truth really underlying all of the doing more is, first we need to be still and connect with our bodies. We need to shift our nervous systems out of survival mode, because then we can be more creative. We can be in touch with that intuitive knowing within ourselves. And so I just found that sort of an interesting bridge, how even at the last moment, when I say last moment, last 19 days before the experiment, she didn't, even though she was honest, she shared that she had considered, pulling the plug on it. She didn't. And I think that speaks to the power of her own inner awakening expansion that she shares as she goes through these, these experiments herself. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, well, I love some of the things you said there about the connection to being still, that connection, and also that people are starting to. Um, it's very exciting for me. I see it. People are becoming more and more aware that we have these holistic approaches, and just in my what I'm doing, the work that I'm doing, which is we have the anthology coming out, The Missing Link, and so I'm getting in touch with people worldwide who do energy healing. And it's amazing. There's thousands of people all over the world who do energy healing. And I always think about this data because I love how she's written the book and she's coming from a data approach. But then I also think, well, how could this be easier for people who are trying to understand? And because a lot of it is through our own experiences, right? The experiences of the energy healing itself, the experience of us providing energy healing for others. And we think about how many people that we are surrounded by, that we've been with, that have experienced the energy healing. And if more people would talk about it, it would just be a common everyday thing, which I'd like to, put an invite out there for anybody who's listening, anyone that has experienced energy healing, or any energy healers that would like to come on and talk with us, please do. I mean, this is an open chat for everyone, and we encourage more stories.
Definitely. I love what you just shared. It's really exciting about the anthology too. And I love that it's 33 stories.
Mhm.
That's such a powerful master number because it's really that energy really that's rising inside of all of us, that the 33rd dimension, if you're speaking biblically, the Christed energy outside of all dogmatic religions, this sort of emergence as the new earth soul integrated into human form, as divine being, anchored in that human form. And so I love how what I'm hearing you're saying, and is this. I even want to go beyond the word normalizing. It's just because I had this felt sense as you were talking that since everything is energy anyways, there will come a point when we won't need to call it energy healing anymore. It'll just be wellness. It'll be so integrated. Right now, I feel like because there's different, camps, out there still, we coin it as such. And I feel like in time, the more people, talk about it, share their experiences, and recognize. I think for a lot of people too, it's just recognizing it in their lives. And this is where what you shared was powerful about people sharing their stories, so that people can begin to acknowledge, yes, I did have this experience. And it in the beginning, I feel when we hear those stories from people around us, it validates it and it
Mhm.
normalizes it. Another thing too is creativity. I remember, I don't know if I've ever shared this with you before, but I just feel kind of guided and inspired to share it now. I remember when I was a teenager having just a conversation with my mom in the kitchen one night and being really curious. I was, I think, maybe 14 or something. And I said to my mom, I wonder what comes after the scientific revolution. And it was just kind of a random question. We're standing there doing dishes. And that's when I had this like vision that we're the next revolution, historically, when we look back and we put the little title on top of it, to organize it for our brains, it's going to be a creative revolution. And I feel like that's really what we're in the midst right now. We're in the midst of a massive creative revolution that's beyond paradigm shifting. In fact, we've never, everything up until now has been a paradigm shift because it's had to do with the mind. But this is beyond the mind. This is the mind and the body and the spirit and the soul. And so this is, I don't even know if there's a word for it yet, because it's not only, it's more than a paradigm shift. It's a reunion, with all that we are. It's a sacred reunion, or sacred
Mm-hmm.
union. Because all the little cubby holes that we've created for things over time, those are just the training wheels. Those are going to begin to dissolve, and they will have served us well along the way. And then they're just going to, dissolve and sort of fade away, and we'll be off, sailing off into the sunset. That's my
Mm-hmm.
sense of it. Yeah.
That sounds nice. The creative revolution. I love that because that is where we're at right now.
Mhm.
That's where people are all tending to gravitate towards is that creativity, that connection with source, and the creativity with just healing naturally, which is what we're talking about with this book, but also with that connection source being able to manifest as well. So um, creating what we want in the energetic field, and then it's just a matter of keeping our vibration, which is good positive thoughts, being happy, doing the things we love to do, keeping our vibration high and attracting what we've already created.
So true.
Joyful expectation. That's what I like to
Oh,
say.
I like that. I like that a lot. I just, you know, we're living in interesting times because, it's interesting even when you talk about manifesting too, right? I feel like still, again, that's something that even in my own journey, right? For many years, I was like, manifesting is something special and spiritual over there. And yet we're constantly manifesting. It's
Mhm.
just, there's this, I'm sensing it even in my own experience. It's refining itself. I don't know. I'm curious to hear how you've been experiencing it too. The way I can describe it is that this is going to totally shift how we show up for ourselves, each other, and interact as human beings in the world. And even I think the word problem is going to start to be kind of, maybe not tomorrow, but in the not too distant future, is going to be archaic. Like I remember I did my English specialist degree at the University of Toronto, and it was like the Oxford English Dictionary and going back to poems from like 500 years ago and tracing the original or origin of the word depressed, which didn't mean, say, for example, mentally not well and sad. It meant like a pothole in the road and how words change over time. I feel like the same thing's going to happen to the word problem, because what I've been noticing in my own experience is that I when I really start to just get clear inside of myself, I don't know if you've been noticing this too, and become that pure channel, and just set an intention, a clear intention. We were talking about this on the last show too, right? I'm noticing that things are showing up that I've been thinking about, and not just thinking about, but feeling, and then surrendering and letting go. And it's happening quickly and easily. And the fascinating thing about that, even with human relationships and interactions, is it's not even like I'm trying to, send mental telepathic messages. It's just, it out pictures. And I'll be, for example, a friend of mine, um, uh, I wanted to see that person, and that person just all of a sudden, it didn't look there was any chance I was going to see that person. And all of a sudden I got a message saying, I don't want to incur a debt with you because I need to show up. And I thought, I didn't even need to have a conversation. It didn't have to be an argument. It didn't need to be a convincing, persuading. I just needed to get really clear inside of myself that this is what would make my heart sing, and then let it go. And then it just showed up, word verbatim for word. And I found that it made me smile. And that's that joyful expectation. It's like not trying to go out there and try to make things happen. It's just getting clear, being in the present moment, surrendering, being open, and just discovering what wants to be revealed to us and
Yeah.
accepting it.
Yeah, I think that we are on the time of that instant manifestation in many different ways. And it's really about becoming aware, like what are you mentioned, just watching what happens around you, right? So one, what is the intention, and then seeing what develops from there. I I always make sure, I think the vibration is the most important part. What vibration are you in? What emotions um, a person is in at the time? Because what I noticed, and I journal it all the time because it's amazing, is getting myself in a high vibration before I even get out of bed, making sure the positive thoughts are there. And I think about how before I've learned all of this and really put it into practice, where I would get out of bed and start worrying about all the to-dos for the day. I don't do that anymore. I think about how great the day is going to be, how it's going to flow with ease and joy. And I'm also doing things that I like to do, the work that I do. Um, so it's simple things like going out into the world, whatever we need to do for the day, whether it's going just to the store to pick up some things, going to the gas station, meeting people out. The people are so nice, and it's like your whole outer world is a little different, like uplifts, like everything is great. And
I
so
yeah,
I
it's
think sometimes
amazing.
we think, "Oh, we're gonna go out and change the world," because a lot of our work is helping people, but it's not really that. It's like change yourself and the outer world changes before your eyes.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah, it makes me think of a kaleidoscope, right? Where you just shift something inside. I
Mhm.
love that you said that. I think that's so important to really be aware of and to notice too. And that's where it goes back to we're constantly manifesting and creating. And it's not about also, I think sometimes people get maybe a little apprehensive when they first hear that, especially if things are not bringing them joy in the moment, because it can also maybe, some people maybe get scared and think, oh, um, I might be blaming myself or, that kind of thing. It's not about that. This is where the neutrality comes in, like the just being open and curious. So it's I find myself it's free from the mind chatter, the peanut gallery, I like to call it, the editorializing, right? And I feel like that's a really important piece. And definitely when I'm down here, one of the things I really love is, first of all, I am on vacation, so my pace of life has slowed down. Is to really invite more spaciousness into my life through being. And what that actually looks like and is like for me is, just before we got on, I was sharing with you that I took a nap because my body was tired, and listening to my body and noticing the feelings and sensations in it from a place of curiosity, and sending the mind on a vacation. I remember years ago a technique I learned when I was studying at Transformational Arts College in Toronto called taking your mind on a vacation. It was this great visualization where you can visualize, in a nutshell, you visualize yourself packing yourself onto a plane, packing your suitcase for your mind, and walking it out onto the tarmac and seeing it strapped in and sending it on a trip somewhere, tropical or wherever, and just literally sending it on a vacation, right? And so it's just, even if I'm not napping, it's just giving myself space. It's not even to think my thoughts. It's just to connect with my body, my emotions, my feelings, my sensations. And I notice when I shift from thinking about things to feeling and noticing and being aware about things, in that sense, it shifts a lot in my experience, and it makes it easier to hold that high vibration. So even if a little bit of, say, maybe all of a sudden I feel a little like sadness come up, but a little like, I can just let it go. I don't even need to understand where it's coming from. I don't need to fix it. I don't need to think about it or understand it. I just let it go. And then it's like a cloud passing in the sky, and it feels so much better, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, what you were describing with the vacation, even that, like going through that visualization, that instantly the feeling inside raises your vibration. So I think that's why some of these exercises work.
Yeah.
Because I know for me, for my life, really paying attention to my vibration and how I feel really correlates to what I'm seeing in the outside world as well.
It's so true. And this is where, in my own experience, I've been noticing that when I'm around, like I love being in nature because I find it very purifying and cleansing. I love being around animals such as cats because, again, they're in their beingness, or listening to bird song, and or even the breeze, because again, it just anchors into the body. And at the same time, sometimes if I'm in crowds, like one of the things I've really been mindful as I get older is to discern which is my energy and which is someone else's, and to again go back to noticing if I shift into a lot of thinking as opposed to a lot of feeling, it's time to kind of step back and consciously shift gears a little bit through maybe a walk in nature, sitting quietly, drinking more water, taking a nap, exercising, something, just to notice that sort of the slippery slope. And because I agree with you, keeping the vibration high is so important. And at the same time, too, another thing is when the mind relaxes, in my own experience, then, because sometimes the mind, it's, I've mentioned this before, it's kind of like a tabloid in the grocery store where, for example, here, I have some new responsibilities I didn't have back home, and I signed up for that, and I agreed to take care of those things here. And it's funny how the mind, if we've been overthinking a lot, the mind can be tired, and it can say things like, "Oh, I have to do this," or "I have to do that." Immediately, I feel my energy go kerplunk,
Mm-hmm.
So the key is to say, I get to do this. I get to do that. And I mean, I just want to share these because they're little nuances, little tweaks in my own experience that help me to like shift gears. It can be very simple. And then it's like being open to whatever is showing up, listening to my body, noticing the sensations, noticing my feelings, so that when something shows up in my experience that maybe I wasn't expecting, or it's like a plot twist, to notice the thoughts and be able to say, I get to have this experience. And what's what in me is inviting this to be, as Sri and Kira would say, right? So
Yeah,
I always go back to that saying because it's
I
so,
do too.
yeah. So it's fascinating, and it's just the more I'm open to that. I don't know about you, but like the more I'm open to that, that just being open to that possibility keeps my vibration high. Because I see so many people who get caught up in, and I know I was one of them at one point, and I still have to be mindful of it from time to time. I'm still working on my mastery. It's that, that those moments where the mind starts to go into things like, oh, I have to do this. Oh, and it's just like, wait a second, you get to do this. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's noticing those
Yeah.
moments and drawing them
We
back.
I that's how I talk with my family too, with my, whenever, my husband and my kids, is we talk about how we get to do things. So sometimes we go back and, like, I correct that because, "Oh, no, you get to do this today." So, that's a great tip for people, and it's easy, and there's lots of little tips like that to kind of, um, do that. Now, as far as the book goes, there had been some people that asked me this week about the correct setup. They were trying to do the Power of Eight with 8 people and the um, healing intentions. And so there were several questions that came up about, do we all need to be together at one time? And is that more powerful than us going through the day and just sending an attention whenever we think about it? And I think there's more instructions that people might want, as well as wanting to participate. So this is exciting. Participate with others, in who others who have good intentions of healing to try this experiment on their own. And so I think that's great, and I think maybe we should put something out there for people if, we can develop a Google Doc or something if people are interested, and we can start connecting people and helping them out with these healing intentions.
I would love that. I'd love to help you with that, Jen, because I feel like this is why the work is here. And I'm so happy to hear that you've been receiving that feedback and it's sparking that enthusiasm and that willingness, because you know this is this is these are the actual practices, and when we gather, and this generates more experiences,
Mhm.
and this is how we create that ripple effect. And it's like anything, the more we practice, the more we experience, it takes us out of our heads and into a knowing, which is
Mhm.
beyond, we don't even at that point need to understand why it works. We just know it works and we see the results and we experience them. And because you talked earlier about making it simple, how can we make this simple? The
Mhm.
mind of form always wants to understand and figure everything out in the beginning, and it is interesting. I've done that too. So I'm happy to hear that. And yeah, I think a Google Doc would be a really good idea. Um, and maybe there's a way too people can reach out to us. And maybe as we continue to share in this book, and there are a lot of chapters as we've talked about, um,
Yeah.
maybe by the end of, as we're going through this, or even sooner at some point, we can um, start the follow up of having done this book talk online, be able to um, you know hold some gatherings.
Yeah, I think so. Um, so one of the questions that was posed to me was, all being together, or should we just send healing intentions just whenever because they had tried this and they had mixed results because their group was, I guess, had different opinions on how they should set it up. And so I can only talk based on my experience. I mean, there's nothing harmful if you're going to just send intentions during the day whenever you feel like it, right? I mean, good intentions, there's good positive energy. It's always, that's good too. I do find though, just from my experience that, and this is working within masterminds, working with other people, that if you do share the same space at the same time, you can feel you can feel the vibration raise. And I just did a talk about this, about masterminding with other people, and everybody have clear intentions, and you go through a certain, I forgive, I'm open to receive, I ask, and make the intention really clear and come in with an open mind. And when people are connected that way in one space, everybody's vibration raises. Everybody goes onto a higher frequency. And because of that, my advice was, I believe it's more powerful getting together in one space at one time, or setting a time that everybody's going to intentionally do that.
I would agree with that. I know from leading chakra dance workshops for the past 10 years and counting, that, and those were ones that I was doing in person. At the same time, I believe in no over distance. Obviously the book talks about this, that it always, gathering as a group always has amplified the intentions and held the space for the experience. And I feel like gathering with that intention of being open to healing also not only amplifies the healing for other people, and by whole it, like you said, it holds the vibration, and it also, it creates this sacred container
Mhm.
that's so safe, and and helps us to remember the truth of who we really are, which is that we're not actually separate beings. At the highest level, we're all one. And so it helps to dissolve any of those limitations of the mind that would seek to keep us feeling separate and alone. That there is, and the other, and one of the practical ways I've noticed that happening in chakra dance workshops is that there's a portion of the workshop where people share about their inner moving meditation experience and mandala experience. And I know you found this before as a healer, I'm pretty sure, because when people share, it's always the right and perfect sharing for someone else in the group to mirror
Mm-hmm.
back to them. It's uncanny, it's amazing, right? That it's just
Mm-hmm.
also the people who choose to gather at a certain point in time often are powerful soul mirrors to each other. And so that's another blessing too. So I agree with you. And the other thing I just want to add in, because recently I did a show about this on my Chakra Care for the Creative Soul with a healer that I respect. And I also feel it's really important too when we're sending healing intentions. If it's this, and she talks about it in her book too, this is why I like gathering in a group as well, to sort of amplify them, is also to really, I'm a firm believer in this, making sure that we ask permission of the person, if it's a person that we're sending healing to. And I just want to reiterate that again, because I see a lot of well-intentioned light workers and loving beings who really are pure channels of light. I see it sometimes even in messages on social media, sending healing thoughts and energy, and it's so well intentioned. And at the same time, I feel it's still really important, even in this world of energy where everything's all one. Sort of sounds like a paradox. At the same time, to always ask permission first, and
Mm-hmm.
and we know this as healers. It's part of our practice. I just feel like for anyone maybe who's newer to this and who's getting excited about what we've been sharing, it just needed to be said.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Always ask permission first. It sounded like the person who talked to me, they were sending healing intentions within the group, within their group. And she had a great experience with just sending healing energy to other people. So I would love for people to come on and talk about those experiences, because even the book says that too. When you're sending healing intentions for other people, you also see changes within yourself as well,
Yes,
right?
that is
What you
so true.
give is what you get. So give and receive, give and receive. So yeah, amazing story. So let's get that Google Doc out there. I can work on that. And then, if anybody, I would say if anybody wants to be a participant for healing, to submit that as well. That way we have someone who is requesting the healing, and we can maybe set up a group that way.
That's a great suggestion. And also too, if anyone has had, this show might be a great place too for people who have had those experiences like you shared just a moment ago, to either in the comments. I don't know if we have any comments right now. I'm just going to check the chat, um, to either send us a message or, um, I feel like someone's here saying cheers. That's great. We've got a viewer. Thank you for being here. And just to, yeah, to share what you've been noticing, if you feel comfortable doing so, because I think the more we talk about it, the more we just express it, then like you were saying before, the more normalized it becomes. Like, this is just something we
Mhm.
can talk about, because I don't know, but I feel like for both of us, we've been on this path for a while, and it just, and especially when we're talking with like-hearted, like-minded souls, it's like, oh, it's just another kind of coffee chat, right? And
Mhm.
yet, we both were talking about this off camera the other couple weeks ago, that it also is the experience of a lot of people. There's that discernment, because we have had moments where we've gone to talk with other people who are in a different place, and it's not a better or worse than place. It's everyone's having their rich life experience. And so it's nice to be able to be in a setting where people are open and curious and non-judgmental, and it's safe, because this is so important, so that we don't inadvertently close down again. We stay open.
Mhm. Yeah, very good. All right. Well, I think this is a good way to conclude. Was there anything else that you'd like to mention about the chapter?
I feel like there was maybe one more thing really quickly. I'm just going to peek at all those underlined things in this book and dog ear things. I think rather than maybe a specific, because there are lots of specific things, again, that she mentions in here, I think overall it's just the sense that I get from this whole book about how there are these foundations, like the one, a humanitarian organization, the FCE, focused on peace, human security, and conflict resolution. I had no idea until I read this book how many different organizations around the world in real time, this is where talking about it is so important, because it really gave me a lot of hopeful expectation, like you shared earlier, because we often just see the problem presented in the media to us, and and that seems to be so much louder than these amazing organizations that are thinking outside of the box, looking for creative solutions. And for those of us who are light workers and just know, without even at first maybe understanding or realizing that these places exist, this opens up so many new possibilities for how we can serve also.
It
And
does. It does. And I'm with you. I had no idea that all these organizations were there. A lot of peace and conflict organizations. I'm like, wow. But yeah, I had the same thoughts as I was reading it. Was there's so much that we could do to help out with that, just with all of our learnings and experiences to help people. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be very easy.
exactly. And I'm going to give you a really concrete example right now, everyone, just because you just inspired me to say so. And I was just feeling it as you said it, because I could feel your energy and excitement there. Just imagine the possibilities of, energy healers linking arms with groups like the FCE, and because they're already open to peace and conflict resolution and expanding that out. Even a good friend of mine here in Cozumel, I'm so proud of her. I admire her so much for her vision. And this is a concrete example of doing just that. She's an energy healer. She's been one for decades. And here they have the Ironman triathlon twice a year. And they have a medical tent, but she's also created a healer's tent and has liaised with the medical tent and has done presentations to the doctors, has them all on board. And I think it's one of the only triathlons in the world that she knows of where they actually have this collaboration going on. So when people, if something should happen and they have an injury, they have medical attention, but then they also have the energetic support for the emotional, etc. And I think that's just one small and profound example of how, as light workers and energy healers moving forward, we can link arms in and open up new possibilities for collaborations. So,
All right.
yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm here. I was frozen there for a minute. Yeah, and I was listening to everything that you had to say, and, I've been trying to collaborate as well, just because I think it's a time where, healers and doctors need to merge, because there's so much we can do together that would help people. And so I get these text messages about needing nurses, and I went to a couple of those talks to say, hey, we have energy healing here, and a lot of nurses know about energy healing as well. I've actually had doctors and nurses come to me to learn Reiki, but they do it more. They want a private class where I may get on Zoom with them and teach them about Reiki. I'm thrilled to just see it happen. But there's still so many regulations to get through, from the hospital perspective to allow Reiki. But there are Reikis in a lot of hospitals now too, in major cities. So I'm happy to see that.
And since you mentioned that, Pamela Miles, I remember at the Canadian Reiki Association, her talk, and it was during the AIDS epidemic that she actually brought, she sort of stumbled into it, and as I understand it, as I thought she expressed it, and basically she's been instrumental in bringing Reiki into like big places like Harvard and Yale and Princeton
Yeah.
medical schools. So I just want to toss that out there for anyone who is maybe newer to some of this and it's piquing their interest, that
Yeah.
there's a lot happening, like from everything you've shared, that and this and more that we're just discovering. So I think the key is to really continue to be open and focus on what we want to create rather than on the problem.
Mhm.
And that's, I feel like this whole book is inspiring us to do that.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great read. All right, well, thank you so much, Pollyanna. It was great talking again today. And enjoy Cosmo.
Thank you. I look forward to being back here with all of you next week.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you next Wednesday, same time. Reach out if anybody has any questions, please.